there and welcome everybody. A very lovely afternoon and hello from Spain here. So I hope you took a breath. I hope you disconnected and I see also that many of you stayed here. Welcome to this virtual Space Hero LinkedIn Live this afternoon where we are going to talk about project management. And of course, as you know, Virtual Space Hero stands for the virtual space. We are particularly focusing on how to make projects in a virtual team successful. And with this, I'm already coming to the person, and I'm so happy that she had time to join me today. In the past weeks, I had amazing speakers. We were talking about virtual meetings with Kevon from Toasty. We were talking with Joshua Davis about virtual trainings, and I have already a lineup until mid of November about amazing speakers. We're always going to address different topics of the virtual space. And today, I'm really super proud that Adriana Girdler is coming here on my LinkedIn live show. And Adriana, welcome. I'm opening the virtual doors to you. Here we go.
Hi, Barbara. How are you doing today?
Hello there. It's so nice connecting to you. Thank you so much again for taking your time. It's really amazing to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a really important topic.
It is definitely. And it's fun because you know that I came to you from a little bit a slightly different angle. So to all of the viewers out there, I would strongly recommend to Google Adriana Girdler and also the poncho activity, because that's something I'm not sure if all the trainers know that, but I just loved it. When I saw the video and I started following you, I was like, dear God, what a creative training method that is. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're very welcome. It is an amazing exercise, and you're absolutely right. People should take a look at it because you can do it virtually. And when we have the ability to go live, it's really powerful live.
Absolutely. So it's also a method that you can apply in the virtual space. After the stream, I'm going to add also a comment that you find it also on the YouTube channel from Adriana. I already see a few people logging in from sunny Valencia. Thomas, hello, welcome. We have Avril connecting from Ireland. Hello there, Avril. Thank you for following and for joining the conversation. And another third country, we have also Sveta from Slovenia joining. Thank you so much. And as you know, this virtual live stream, virtual space hero live stream, of course, it's only Adriana and me here, like more or less here, okay? But we strongly encourage you to participate in the conversation. We're going to pick up on your questions, and we also love your comments, whether you agree, whether you disagree, and hear about your experiences as well. And first of all, so not to forget about that, I really strongly recommend that you first of all go to YouTube and to subscribe also to Adriana's channel there. There are a lot of tips and tools for trainers also applicable in the virtual space. So don't do that. But Adriana, let me ask you one question. So I presented you on the Canva that I was using for promotion as a project management ninja, and you
Yes.
call yourself a CEO, but it doesn't really stand for Chief Executive Officer, right?
That's right. It is Chief Efficiency Officer because that's my background. I originally I did engineering, mechanical engineering, project management, and really I have a master black belt in Lean Six Sigma. So I do a lot of efficiency work. People always say, Adriana, I guess I shouldn't cross you or go at all. And it's like, no, 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 no. But yeah, and all of the learnings over my years of being in the corporate world really have allowed me to kind of go into organizations and help them do what they do better. I don't focus externally. I focus internally on really how do we make people work really well together so that the product and service can be delivered to the customer in the best possible way.
Super, fantastic. So let us know a little bit about what are, because that's what we're talking about. So in the promotion, I said also, how can you make your project a success? We were using the quote from Benjamin Franklin: "If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail." So would you like to start to give us a short intro about project management and particularly the virtual component?
Absolutely. So I think what's really interesting is there's a lot of people who don't know that they actually do projects. They actually do a lot of work and they just think it's part of their job, but they don't realize that actually what they're doing is a project. Now, it's really important to understand what a project is, because when you understand that you're actually doing a project, you start approaching things slightly differently. And it really makes a difference from an engagement perspective, even more so now from a virtual world perspective, when we don't have the ability to bump into someone in the hallway or quickly go to their office and chat with them briefly. So we're really stuck in the sense that we have to be organized and prepared. So the first thing is, do you do projects? And I would challenge everyone on this live stream that yes, you do projects. So what is a project? A project is, it's an activity that has a defined start and end date with a deliverable. And you usually have to call in some other people on occasion, but it is something that is not part of your daily routine. It is something that you're trying to execute that's probably a one-off. So there's tons of strategic initiatives, even planning for training is a project. So if you have a launch and you're planning training or you're doing anything of that nature, that's a project. So when you start understanding that majority of activities that you do are project oriented, you went, whoa, I wonder now why things worked well or didn't work well. And if you take a project management approach to it, it actually will become a lot smoother for you. Now, to answer your last question about the virtual world, it's really interesting because projects, I've been on a lot of global projects. So we are working globally with individuals and have been in the virtual world. So it's not a question of this is new for project management. It's a question of everybody is now virtual. So it's a different approach to how you take a look at things and different expectations than you would have had before, because I don't have a live meeting to bring, let's say 50% of the people in and then bring a call in to bring in the other 50%. It's like we're all virtual. It's all different. And it's a different accountability because a project manager is there to guide, micromanage, and macro manage. Let me clarify, macro manage to allow for everyone as subject matter experts to really excel at what they're doing.
Absolutely. I just want to pick up on what you were saying. So everybody of us is doing a project. And I was 2 or 3 years ago, there was an initiative in Hungary with a few other Balkan countries. They wanted to set up a project about, I'm not sure if it's the correct term in English, projectification of our lives, because their idea was to look at also our daily lives, at the small things we're doing sometimes, rather as a project to be more successful in what we are doing. And also when I think about my teaching, I teach project management at university, and I do use with the students, for example, I use Trello, and I tell them the other tools, but we use Trello as a use case. Yeah. And it's fun as one project management software. The students afterwards, they usually write their bachelor thesis using Trello as an instrument for that project. And that's really nice to see how it sort of integrates it into their thinking a little bit.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because one thing, I've been project managing now for over 20 years. I do have my PMP, and as my organization, CornerStone Dynamics, we do efficiency work and project management work. So I do run projects for my clients, but I do a lot of coaching and consulting with their project managers. And I think the biggest thing that I see is project management is not about a software. It is about, and which is why I want us to talk about this from a virtual perspective, it is about how you run a project overall, because it's about people. So software is strictly a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool to keep you on track, and you can use any one that you like that's going to work well for you. But there is so much more outside of that to ensure success. And I think that's really important, particularly for younger individuals coming into the business world, when they're probably so oriented to, hey, I have a software, and Trello is a great software. There's a lot of other great ones out there, but it's how can we teach individuals, whether they're young, new, professionals, have been here for a long time, how do we teach them that it's not just the software and it's not just the deliverable, but how do we integrate it to make it holistic, to really take a look at a perspective of bringing everyone on board, really from an accountability perspective? Because if people are accountable, which is why doing this in the virtual space is so critical, they actually are going to be a lot more successful in delivering their overall goals.
Absolutely. And I think that's very much what we were talking also in the past LinkedIn Lives with Kevin or with Joshua, or all the exchanges that I have. Also, when we think about training, it is nice to have different platforms and to experiment with different
Absolutely.
technological platforms that have like super fun, whatever tools to experiment with. But at the end, also, Cassie Labouré said very clearly, the platform is one thing, but the point is I need to think about the participants, the
Yeah.
objective of my training, and not design around fancy features that I might have, as of course all project management tools have as well. And that's when, because I just want to start with that. And also don't miss out, all of you there, and I'm going to just blend that and float that in for some time now, because Adriana is also offering a free training about project management, how to start your project successfully. So that's a
Yes.
definitely a must for you there if you're interested in project management in general. But coming back to what you were saying, people, it's about people in project
Yeah.
management, super important. And so, for example, in my case with the students, we talk a lot about roles in project management, personality types, and what roles do they take over, how do they want to work together.
Yeah.
And I'd love to talk about that, and also particularly about what should the skills, these critical skills maybe, of a project manager be.
Okay. Well, it's a good question, and I'm really glad that you brought it up, because I think when people think of project management, they think, oh, it's about creating the project plan and it's about documentation. And yes, that's true. It's important. You need to have that. But I would say that there are a lot more other skills that I would put on top of that to be, from a priority perspective, more important. So the first one is leadership and coaching. A project manager is leading a group of people in order to get to an objective. All of those people actually have interdependencies. Very rarely do I come across projects or any deliverables where all the individuals are siloed and their activities do not impact on anybody else. Very rarely. So, as a result of the interdependency that we have within the project, or goals or deliverables or whatever we do within the business world, it is so important that as the lead, and whether you're a manager, so this is the beauty of this, it doesn't matter if this doesn't even have to be about project management, it could be about management, it could be about being a leader of an organization. It is about leading and coaching, ensuring that people understand what the vision is, bringing people together, ensuring that you coach people's behavior, and giving them all the information in the bigger picture. So leadership and coaching, definitely a very important skill set. And as a project manager, you have to think of yourself as a leader. Psychology. So psychology. If you can be a psychologist while you're project managing, that is wonderful too. So that's another skill set, is to really have a really good understanding of people's behavior. So I always say, learn about Psychology 101. You will be surprised, because that's about team dynamics. You can have the best project, the best plan on paper, everything looks great. But if your team is not gelling and they're in what we call storming mode, and they can't get past that, I don't care how good your documentation is. Your project, in essence, will have some failures to it. You may push it to be successful, but that's why understanding human behavior is really critical as a skill set. Is try to be AKA psychologist. Obviously, you don't have a PhD, so do not go ahead and try to solve people's problems, but understand how people work. And you'll be surprised, because when you start understanding how people work, you become detached emotionally, and you don't take things as personally either. Because as a project manager and a leader, you have to have discernment. You have to take a step back and go, my job is to lead and not to take things personally, because it's not about you. It's about the goal that you're trying to achieve. So that's really important. I would say the next skill set is time management and organization. You can be really good at the document, right? You can be really good at a software program, but if you yourself are not good with time management, if you yourself are not good with organization, you're in essence leading people. You are the metronome. You are giving the drumbeat that people know this is what's expected of us, how we expect to do it. And if you can't plan the timing and organization properly, your team won't do it either. So it's kind of like a parent who smokes and says to their kids, do not smoke as you're smoking in front of them. So you have to lead by example, and you want to make sure that your time management and organization is boom, bang on. I would say, listen, there's quite a bit that I would even go through, but the last two that I really want to talk about are discipline. As a project manager, you need to be disciplined. You have to get everything organized. You got to take a look at everything, and you got to follow through. If you do not follow through, it falls apart. And then I would say the last skill set, although not the last because there's many more, you have to be a negotiator. I think people don't realize how important that skill set is, because when you, depending on the size of your project and what your project is about with the strategy, you then have to start interacting with sponsors, senior executives, other individuals who want to add to the scope of your project. So you have to learn how to negotiate. You have to learn, which is part of the team dynamics, psychology 101. How do you negotiate with people to move things forward? Because here's something about project management. People do not report into you. You are not their direct manager. They already have a manager. You're their project manager. So how do you motivate them to abide by your timelines and everything that you ultimately need to get done and are responsible for in a way? And that's why these skills are so important, because people, you do not have the ability to say, I'm your manager, you need to get this done. You must listen to me solely because I am your direct manager and I have impact on your performance appraisal and all that other stuff. That's not the case. So those skills, I would say, are critical for project management, but also probably just critical, generally speaking, in the business world, and even more so in the virtual world, because we don't have the luxury of getting to really know people in a hallway conversation, talking to them at lunch, at the lunchroom table, and really bringing that connectivity. So now these skills are even more important, because we're probably meeting new people and definitely not hanging out with them, but only like this. So like, yeah, you and I got to know each other on some, emails and texts, but this is really our first live interaction.
Interaction, absolutely.
And that's huge.
It is. It is. Let me just pick up on a few comments from Brett here, from our participants. So he's saying it's important to remember to not take it personally as a leader. It's not about you. And I think probably he's probably picking up also on the difficult relationship that you are only the project manager. Very often there is another manager that the person is also reporting to and have been longer involved with in a business relationship, even in the company. He's also mentioning taking it personally impinges on the ability to take productive input from team members. Thank you so much. Absolutely great comment. And I think the last one to pick that up is inclusion. And I believe that probably that is about one also of the skills of a project manager to have an inclusive or to create inclusive working environment, right?
Absolutely. I always say, my success, or let me back it up, because I always say it's not about me. The project success is, if the team is successful, the project is successful. If the team is not doing well, that's on my shoulders as a project manager. It's my job to figure out what is going on. Inclusion is so important. That's why I think team dynamics is so important. That's why the psychology and understanding how people behave. And if you're really upfront in the beginning with everything, it makes such a huge difference, where individuals really enjoy being on your team because they know that we know exactly what to expect. There's consistency, and you are here to back us up. Individuals, I'm telling you, people are great at what they do. If they're not good at what they're doing, you have to take a look at their leadership around them and question, what is it that they're not providing support for? Now, there are instances of individuals who just don't try, but I find that's very minimal. I very rarely come across that. Those tend to be unique scenarios. I find individuals really want to do a good job, and they're there to do a good job, but sometimes they just don't have the right support, and so therefore close down. And that's why these skill sets are so important for project management, but even more so in the virtual world, which is why I feel they're inclusive for anybody who manages people, let alone projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let me pick up another question. If we think about the project Kickoff, so you're offering your training course, which is fantastic. So don't miss that also to look at that, because I'm sure you're going to mention that there as well. But how do you organize a virtual kickoff for the project? What do you need to consider if we think about it now?
Okay. So I think so again, this is not going to be for everyone. And the more experienced you are, the more you realize what I'm about to say and why I'm saying it. So I find the less experienced you are with projects, the more as soon as you get the project, you want to kick it off. And what I say to people is don't. There's so much preparatory work you have to do, because as a project manager, it is your job to set your team up for success. That is your job, and to ensure the deliverable of everything. So if that's the case and I have a kickoff, I can totally get my team excited. But why would I get them excited on something when I have nothing to give them? And then all of a sudden the excitement goes. And then how do I bring that back? It is a lot more work. So whenever I get a project, I always let my sponsors know and my clients, like, listen, it's probably going to be a good month before we kick this off, because there's a lot of things from a project management perspective I have to go through. I need a scope statement. I need to get my charter done. I need to do a WBS, work breakdown schedule. I need to do a draft of my milestones and timelines. I have to look at high level risk, high level assumptions. Like, there's a lot of information that I do and prepare. So in essence, I create a package. So that package, then when I have my kickoff, because the kickoff is really easy. The kickoff is, I never do a meeting, because when I present my packages, it never takes an hour or two. It's usually like a half a day because there's so much information. But but it's beautiful. It's like a workshop in a way. And then I get them included because I help them create the action items. I may have started the baseline of it because I have an idea of what needs to be done. But I get them included right away. I set up the expectations, and then we present the package and we go through everything. And the reason why I do that is because I want to make sure that the next day they can start the project work. That's how I get buy-in immediately. And particularly when I'm not their manager, but I'm their project manager, I can get them really focused. Now, what's really cool from a virtual perspective is it doesn't matter virtually anymore. It's just get everything prepared and then schedule your virtual meeting. Now, you are going to need more time than you normally would. It's not just as simple, here, read this. You need to walk through everything. I'm a big believer that I don't make anybody do anything. I give people options, but I have people sign stuff. So I want to make sure that we go through it. They're very clear from a charter perspective, what's expected. And then with the virtual world, then you can have some fun with your kickoff meeting. Then you can integrate exercises to really pull out the rest of the information. But, the kickoff meeting virtually is not hard. The hard work is all the preparatory work you have to do, and reminding yourself that you have to do that first before you even schedule the kickoff meeting. Because you may find with your prep work, you need more people than you originally thought. And the sponsor who knocked on your door said, oh, this. I get this all the time, and maybe the listeners would too. Knock on the door. Hey, to do this project, this is all you need. And this is only the time you need it. And then when you do all your initial work, you realize, actually, no, I need 2 additional people, and I need them more than what you think we do, because they're just high level executives who are, they're visionaries. They're supposed to do high level stuff. We're supposed to get into the nitty gritty. So from a kickoff perspective, virtual is not the challenge. It is the preparatory work that's the challenge.
Oh, that's a very interesting approach. Thank you so much. A very interesting aspect, I think, that we sometimes forget. And it reminds me a lot about research, honestly.
Yes.
Because when my students are writing a thesis, or when I was writing my PhD, it's all about the research and the structure beforehand, even to have your abstract or your proposal ready before you really start working on it, honestly. And I do know that nobody wants to hear that, because it means before you really start working, you're already like writing a proposal for like a year on a PhD. So that's crazy. But that's how the best PhDs come out.
Absolutely. It's all in the preparation. I mean, and it's the same with project management. It's all in the preparation. The kickoff is not hard. It's the prep. So
absolutely.
Do that work, and your team would be so grateful. And then the nice thing about it is it sets up the expectation right away, because holy smokes, our project manager came to the table prepared with everything. And let me tell you, you can't buy that. That in itself sets the tone. That's why you're a leader. That's why you have to understand psychology. That's why it's all the negotiation and the discipline and the time management in the organization. All those skills are important, which is going to set you up for the kickoff.
Absolutely. Let me pick up here on a comment from Sveta. She's saying, thank you. She really enjoyed the multi-layered competence-based approach to project management. Thank you. One interesting comment is about psychology or sociology of small groups.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Sveta. And to all the others out there, I see there are people on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, watching. Also, provide us with your question. We are super happy to pick up on that. Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask another question. Big Forest, if we are still talking about the virtual kickoff, you said, because I'm still very much interested in that as well. So if you have, you're well prepared, you come to the virtual kickoff, you have maybe like that workshop that lasts longer. What would be a fun activity that you'd be doing after working on the project, its structure, maybe team roles? What fun activity would you be suggesting to do with the virtual space?
Within the kickoff? Or
within a kickoff, for example.
Because I'm so glad you say that. It's like, yay. So here's the thing. I'm a big believer about having fun at work. Like, honestly, like, have fun at work, because we have so much responsibility and it can get quite serious, particularly when you do tons of strategic initiatives, because they're quite linked to, the success of an organization. So it's like, you have to have fun, because there's a lot of seriousness that goes on that can be sometimes really, daunting. So I'm a big believer in team development. So I constantly do icebreakers. I'm constantly doing exercises. And as I said, in the Pacha one that you said too. So what I usually do with my kickoffs, or any really meeting, is, and people now know me when they've been working with me for a while, so they kind of expect it now. So don't be embarrassed, because I find some people get embarrassed to do fun exercises, because there's some individuals who say, well, I don't like that, right, within your group. And I always give people a choice. Hey, if you don't want to participate, you don't have to participate. I'm not going to force you to participate. The choice is up to you. But if someone chooses not to participate, that is valuable information, because I promise you, they're not going to participate in other things either. And now you already know who you need to spend some extra time with in order to really develop them, to bring them on board. So there's
what a good hint.
There's tons.
It's an amazing hint, Adriana. Sorry for interrupting.
No, I honestly don't ever take someone's negativity, as I said, about you, because it's not about you. It's about the scenario and situation, and it gives a lot of information about them. And
that's exactly what, that's exactly what Brad was saying before.
Yeah.
To take productive input, and the productive input would be just to understand, oh, what's going on there.
Yes. So think of that as gold, because you can't pay for that, because a lot of people have a mask on, particularly at the beginning of a project when you're in forming mode. Everyone's polite. They want to put their best face forward. So they're not going to really show you their true self. Not to say that anybody has a hidden agenda or they're doing things of that nature, because I really do believe in the goodness of people. And I think you can bring them along. But it gives you the insight, because I promise you, there's always people you have to spend a little more time with. So I love doing introduction exercises, but I always try to integrate my virtual fun stuff that has a purpose. So I just don't do, for example, and I think this is really important. It doesn't matter what you do on an exercise perspective. Make sure you tie it into a point of what you're trying to do professionally. Because if you just do a fun exercise and then you walk away from it, it's like, well, why did we do that? And like, I get it was fun, but for those who are not so keen on it, they need to understand why you're doing it. So if I want to do an introduction exercise for people, I may be very specific and tied in with the theme that my project is doing, or a theme of a workshop that I'm doing. And then when it's done, I'm saying, hey, wow, isn't that great? Look how that connected us to what we're actually trying to achieve here. 50% of you already blah, 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 right? So if people go, because we all need to have a little bit of fun, but we all need to link it back to why we're doing in the work, not just for the sake of doing it. And then that's okay to be very specific with it.
And you know what? Don't you think also in terms of, I totally agree that the activity should relate to what we are talking about, or the project is, or whatever. It's the same in the classroom. But what you were saying about fun activities in general, I see that there is quite a shift going on, a switch going on in people, because we all did not really know how to connect in the virtual space. And now with time, we're becoming more comfortable also to do that. So I believe it's becoming like a little bit easier, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. I think there's more acceptance for it. But on the flip side of it, because I find now that we're all in virtual and a lot of people are back to back virtual, I find I'm getting like, I'm now careful when I use it. So I use it, but I'm really careful when I use it, because some people are like, listen, I only have an hour with you and you want to interject a fun activity in here. I get it, but I am back-to-back meetings. Can we just get to the point? So I've had that said to me. So I use it when it's like at the beginning, introduction, want to have a fun thing. But if we truly have to get work done, I'm not going to force people by doing a fun activity, particularly if it's a group that I've been working with for a long time. Right? If it's a brand new group, absolutely, there's a lot to be said, but you need to make sure you have the time available so you can actually get your work done, because you don't want the fun activity to take away from the critical hours of getting your work done, because people get upset at that now, even more so, because you can't get it back, right? And you're in back-to-back virtual meetings, because that's how we work now, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think also probably that's something a project manager should definitely also look into, how we organize our project schedules or project meetings ourselves. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Well, I want to say that's an interesting, I look at things holistically, and maybe I'm about root cause analysis, and maybe that's my Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt efficiency work coming out of me, right? Because I'm like, okay, this is not working, and how do we find the actual root cause to everything? We're in too many meetings now, because that's the only way we can talk to people. I can't change that, right? But what I can really stress now is, how can we communicate outside of meetings and within project management? And this is why I struggle sometimes with project management software. I actually use an old-fashioned Excel sheet. It's customized, don't get me wrong. It's customized the way I use it. But I've gone through so many different project software that I find it doesn't give me everything that I need. And I'm a believer in one-stop shop. I want to have everything at my fingertips. And for me personally, I put all key relevant information under the multiple tabs, but I have a communication portion within my Excel spreadsheet, which captures all of the project tasks that I teach people how to communicate with me through that. And so when we have meetings, I do not have an update meeting. Do not. We never update how's your status. Let me backtrack. I may once in a blue moon do an update meeting, because it's been a long time since we've all just kind of gotten together and took a look at everyone's task holistically. But I teach people outside of meetings to talk to me electronically in this Excel form. And there's a color coding system, and there's a whole bunch of really cool things that you can do depending on what you need and how you want to manage things. But I find that becomes even more important in the virtual world. So when I am meeting with you, it is truly to remove a roadblock, address an issue, or brainstorm a brand new idea. Those are the three things I should never be meeting with you. Hey, Barbara, can you update me on your status?
No. That's so interesting. I'm just like, my mind is like, whoa, how does that look like? How does that look like? What's the system in that Excel file that you invented, created, programmed? I don't know. Dear God.
So, I wasn't going to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up. So I do have free training. I absolutely have free training for people, but I also have a practical project management online course that I just created. And it gives you all the templates, everything that I've been using with my clients for the past 20 years. And in it is that Excel spreadsheet that I show people if they want to use it. It's there for them. It's created. I explain how to use it, how to populate it, how to train people on it, and then how to monitor with it. So it's there if you want it. And, again, if you do the free training, it will link you to it. But if you're interested in it, just go to my YouTube channel and I talk about it.
Absolutely.
So there's other options for you. I'm not trying to force people to do it, but I just find over and over again, I get too many of my clients asking me, I want to teach people how you project manage to them. And that's why this has come up, because I take all the practical stuff, because let's be honest, business and theory is so important. I'm a big educator. I believe in the theory, but when you come into the business world, there are some things that the business world just does, and you need to be able to take the theory and mix it in with the business world and the reality of it. Otherwise, you become ineffective. So, and then there's like a combination going on. Like, the business world teaches you things, but then you got to teach the business world things as well. And so it's very much a reciprocal relationship, and a very important one. So Anyway.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Listen, Adriana, before I ask another question, I want to pick up a question from Joanna, and it still relates to the kickoff meeting.
Yes.
So it is, how do you contribute to create psychological safety in your kickoff meeting?
So that's an excellent question. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because I talk about feeling safe in your group. And that's really important. If you're going to have individuals truly contribute, they need to trust and feel safe with you and everybody in it. So in my kickoff meetings, as I said, there's quite a few things that I do. I actually have a YouTube video on kickoff meetings. So if you want to take a look at it, I go in more. Yeah, I'm telling you, I have so much on my YouTube channel. The playlist would probably be project management that you can go under, but I have tons of stuff. So the big thing is go over the charter and what everyone's doing, but I actually create an expectation list from my team. Because I've just done this for too long. I tell them what I expect them. I expect them, and part of that is the safety portion, is I expect them to treat everybody with respect. I expect that what's said here stays here, because we have to have open, honest dialogue. And there's going to be some things that if we can't be open and honest with each other, not only amongst us as a team, but what's going out in the business world, without feeling like, oh my goodness, this is professional suicide. But it's how you do it, right? There's a respect. I call it love, bringing love back into the business, and doing it very respectfully. And you can accomplish a lot that way. That's why psychologically, it's really important to have discernment. Don't take things personally. This is not about you. It's not about me. It's about the goal of the organization. And we're all subject matter experts coming together, working together for this common goal. So I really break down egos, because egos is a big part of it. And I have a lot of, if I'm new and people don't know me that well, because I'm blessed, I have tons of repeat business with my clients. So once I get through the first round of a project, then they hire me back and back, which is awesome. But then they know me, right? So they actually go, oh my God, Adriana's going to take care of this. And they're like, can't wait, right? They go, oh my God, there's a new person on board, and Adriana, you got to talk to them. But it's all in love, right? So, yeah, it's just setting it up. And I like to say, address the elephant in the room immediately. Do not be afraid as a project manager. You have to say the hard stuff. That's your job. But you can do it in a very loving, respectful way that is not going to hurt the other individual. You don't have to hurt anybody to make a point, ever, ever. And you can do it in a way that's very respectful. And that's why it's important to understand psychologically where people are at, because there's some individuals you can guide them in front of a group and they're okay with it. And there's other individuals, don't you dare guide them in front of a group, because they will take it so personally, they'll be hurt. So you need to pull them aside and talk to them personally about it, and really ask them, connect with them, have some emotional intelligence. Sometimes people just aren't performing at work, not because of work or who they are. There could be some really tough things happening in their personal life. We've all been through that. So give people the benefit of the doubt. Your success as a project manager, virtually or non-virtually, is your people. And again, they don't report into you. So you have that extra level of importance of really connecting with them, very, in a friendship-like way. But you have to be careful, because it's not about friendship where it's at the where friendship takes away from what you're trying to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're still a leader, and there's a little bit of distance that you have to give.
So what you were saying, just to summarize it, on one hand, you were saying make clear what the expectations are.
Yes.
Like make the boundaries clear, but also connect. And for example, give one-on-ones, right, to the people. Check in individually, not always only in the group, but make sure that really everybody is on board, and also seek that connection, right?
Yeah, and call things for when things aren't. People are not stupid. People pick up on things and do not think that they don't. So if you sense something, if people sense that something is off, they pick up on it, whether they say it or not. So as a project manager, you have to address it. So if there's someone who's behaving in a way that's not based on your rules, call them out on it. And there's ways to do that, which on my YouTube channel, I talk about that.
And here we go again, in case you haven't seen that before. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's, that's why your job is not just about paper. It's truly about people. It's how do you motivate people who are not replying, who don't report into you, to do an amazing job. And then virtual is just the next complexity and layer of it. So now you have to be effective and efficient to ensure virtually things are really smooth. Are you doing a game at the right meeting? Are your meetings dealing with issues, or are you just doing updates? Can you do some techniques outside of those virtual meetings to ensure smoothness so that individuals feel like, wow, my project manager, boy, they have everything lined up. They're setting me up for success. Like, that's what you want. And then I promise you, they will move mountains for you. Move mountains for you. I've had projects where people have moved mountains. That's obviously a figurative speech, not literal. They're not literally moving a mountain unless you're doing a train tunnel through a mountain.
That's good. That's good. I got that. Also, on my fantasy, it's like, with your Excel file really went crazy, but now with the mountain, I got it. So out there, thank you so much for your questions. Amazing, very intriguing question. And yeah, Joanna, so thank you very much for your answer, especially the idea to address the elephant in the room. And I think that also means that, of course, the leader of a project team and a virtual project needs to have the courage, needs to be courageous and brave to do that. Sometimes we try, we don't really want to address those things that are really awkward, but that needs courage, and that's also something important.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because in the virtual world, I have a rule. So I make a difference. There's guidelines, and guidelines means you have a choice. I'm giving you a guide. Here's what here's what my, within this parameter, I want you to behave in, and it's your choice to, work with it. But then I have rules. It's a must. You have to do this. There's no choice. One of my rules are video is on. I need to see you. I need to connect with you. I need to see your eyes. I need to be able to see what else you're doing too, because you're not supposed to be doing other work when we're in a meeting. And you need to call people out on that. And it's interesting because, I have an organization, I have clients. I call my clients out. But I'm also very clear beforehand. I say, listen, it is really important that when we're going to have this meeting, like particularly my sponsor, the client, who's like my main client, we're having a team meeting. I need to make sure everybody on this call, and just to let you know, I'm going to call them out if they don't have their video on. Are you okay with this? And sometimes we have long conversations. Well, that's not our policy to have video on. And I say, well, here's why we need to have video on. And I explain everything. I said, there's good reason for it. And then we have a conversation with it. And then usually they go, okay, let's try it. So, and then I call people out. Can you please, I will literally say, video's off, and I go, hey, Joe, Jane, how are you doing? Great. Oh, John, I see your video's off. Can you please turn it on? We'd love to see your face. Thank you so much. It's not even a question of, oh, can you? It's like, hey, John, I see your video's off. Can you please turn it on? Like, do you see the terminology and the words you can use in order to bring it about? But it's also how you deliver things too. That becomes really important.
I think the super important part of it is now to realize that, of course, it applies also to my teaching or my training, that beforehand we establish the rule, right? We have the videos on. And for example, it's pretty difficult because when I teach to certain universities where the rule in the university is to have the video off, it's only the professor with the video on. It takes quite some time, but I need to make my expectation clear beforehand, and also calling out, asking for participation so that your attendees become really active participants. That's something that is really hugely important.
Absolutely. And you know what? The first time I meet with anybody, there's expectations with the projects. I also have expectations within meetings, and I will lay those out, and I'll say, listen, the success of this is not me. Okay. Like, I know what we need to do here. The success of this is on you. This is why we're all here. We're not doing an update meeting. Right? We're doing a meeting, a brainstorm, resolution, creativity, trying to figure things out in order to move us forward. You're the subject matter expert. The success of this is on you. My job is to guide you in the process. So I need your video on. Let's participate. I'm going to call on you, and you'll be amazed. As soon as people, that's why you need to do this immediately. You don't wait to do it like 5 weeks later when you're still with the team, because they're not going to listen to you at that point. That's why with the kickoff, you don't have the kickoff immediately either, because you have to do all that planning and prep to decide, what are my roles, right? How am I going to do this? Set yourself up for success. You don't have to rush into things immediately.
Yeah. So important points. Thank you so much for sharing
You're
that
welcome.
again, Adriana. And now we're almost at the end. So if I see a question like floating in immediately, I'm going to take that one now, and I'm counting like two, one, two, or I take my own one. And this is going to be the last question because we are only live for like 42 minutes. So Adriana, last question is coming from me now, and it would be about how to best identify or manage project scope creeps.
Yes. Okay. So your project scope creep is all about the beginning. Again, your planning portion of the project. So I always say to people, painting a room, putting on paint on the wall is easy. It's the spackling, cleaning, prepping, moving out all your furniture. That's the planning part of project management. And scope creep is part of that as well. So it's really important that you're solid with your scope statement, what's in and out, but more importantly, talk about the priority matrix. Now, the cool thing is my free training that if you want to put up the link again, talks all about this in more detail because this is the setting up your project for success. So in order to eliminate scope creep, you got to be really clear with scope. You have to involve your sponsor and your steering committee and get agreement on it. But more importantly, you need a priority matrix. So that's all the preparatory work. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean people aren't going to try to do more on your scope statement. And by the way, they can, but it's scope, time, and budget. What's your constraint? If scope is your constraint, then time and budget you should be able to move and be flexible with. So when people say, Adriana, I want to increase the scope, I actually have a change control form, and it's just a one pager, very quick. So here's another psychological trick. People love to tell you, oh, can you please do this? And I'm like, not a problem. Here, by the way, can you please fill out this form? And then all of a sudden, it's not that important to them. Honestly, of course I can look at that for you, but I need you to fill out this form. It's just a one pager. If they're truly serious about it, they'll do it. I'll look at it because they're really serious about it. And then we'll negotiate about, okay, what are you looking to do? What's the impact? And then I'm okay with changing a scope, time, or budget based on that, right? But it's when people just want to drop it in your lap, particularly senior management, oh, just add it. It's not a big deal. They don't understand. Yes, it could be a big deal. Resource, time, budget, all of that stuff. So that's my sort of, and I do this to senior executives too. They want to change. I'm like, absolutely. Can you fill out this form? Well, I'm too busy. Not a problem. Let's book a meeting and go through it. And then all of a sudden, I'm telling you, it was just a whim that they had. And it's just a very professional way to nip it in the bud. And it's super easy. And, again, I talk all about that. I talk about that on my YouTube channel, and I talk about that in my free training, but I also talk about it in the SLAY project management online course that I offer too.
Adriana, I was picking up on Joanna's question. Joanna, thank you so much for the questions. Brad was there, Sveta was there. Thank you so much, guys, for your comments, your questions. And Adriana, thank you so much for in this 44 minutes. I think we overrun a little bit with this 44 minutes to share so much of your knowledge with us. And all of you out there, don't forget to subscribe. I love Adriana's YouTube channel. It's amazing. And also the free webinar, highly recommended. And with this, I tell you again, I say again, thank you very, very much. Backstage, there is sort of a virtual cocktail. I'm going to be with you immediately.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much again for being with us this afternoon. Amazing questions, amazing comments, and there are very good news. I have now more or less my LinkedIn calendar or my virtual space or LinkedIn lives planned until mid-November, every Friday afternoon. If you want to stay updated, go to my webpage, barbaracv.com, subscribe to my newsletter. On Monday, probably on Tuesday, there is going to be a mailing with all the LinkedIn lives, and finally, and add to your calendar function. So you can already add them beforehand to your calendar with all the necessary information. That is one thing. Next week, just as an outlook, I have the amazing Joe Silverstone with me, and we are going to talk about silence in the virtual space. And we're also going to show you a few improv techniques on what an impact can silence to build trust in your virtual team make. And with this, I'm also saying, become a hero of the virtual space. Thank you very much for being with us, for your for following the LinkedIn Live show, for following me on the social media channels, for your comments, and for your feedback. I'm wishing you a wonderful Friday afternoon, a beautiful weekend, and I hope to see you next week on Thursday, exceptionally, with Joel Silverstone talking about silence in the virtual space. Have a beautiful afternoon. Bye.